Russia's special military operation in Ukraine has entered its third year and has yet to achieve the goals Moscow hoped for. Instead, Russia has suffered serious losses on multiple fronts, particularly in its armored forces. The war has seen the largest loss of armored vehicles since World War II, as the number of Russian tanks destroyed in Ukraine continues to rise. The scale of the losses has not only far exceeded pessimistic pre-war estimates, but has also fundamentally changed the perception of modern armored warfare. Analysis shows that Russia has lost a large number of tanks of various types, from the aging T-72 series to modern tanks, such as the T-90. These losses are the result of a number of factors, including the emergence of advanced anti-tank weapons, tactical errors on the battlefield, and logistical failures. Through detailed analysis of battlefield reports and verified footage, it becomes clear that these losses were not only a material problem, but also led to a serious strategic crisis, significantly reducing Russia's military capabilities. Scale of Russian tank losses. Our analysis of Russian tank losses in Ukraine reveals a staggering scale of destruction that has reshaped the battlefield dynamics. According to the International Institute for Strategic Studies, ISS Russian forces have lost at least 3,000 tanks since the invasion began, while Ukrainian military sources claim even higher figures approaching 8,000 tanks. Tracking precise losses presents significant challenges, with different sources reporting varying numbers. The open-source intelligence site Oryx has visually confirmed 3,639 Russian tank losses, providing the most conservative but thoroughly verified count. This includes 2,571 destroyed, 157 damaged, 378 abandoned, and 533 captured tanks. The loss ratio has been particularly concerning for Russian forces. They're losing tanks at nearly 4 times the rate of Ukrainian forces. This disparity becomes even more significant when considering Russia's initial deployment of approximately 3,300 operational tanks at the invasion's start. Although comprehensive geographic data is still limited, losses have been concentrated in major battles and offensive operations. For example, the recent battle at Avdiivka resulted in major equipment losses for Russian forces. May 2023 marked Russia's second highest month for tank losses, with 428 tanks destroyed. Examination of specific tank variants reveals significant losses across multiple models. T-72 family, 258 T-72 billion variants confirmed lost. T-90 series, 35 T-90A and 16 T-90M models destroyed. T-62 variants, over 70 units lost, including modernized versions. It's observed that Russia has been forced to increasingly rely on older tank models to replace losses. Their domestic production capacity remains limited to approximately 100 tanks per month, forcing them to draw from Cold War-era stockpiles. This has led to a notable decline in the quality of deployed tanks, with even 1940s-era T-54 tanks being pressed into service. The sustained losses have forced significant adaptations, with Russia placing its defense industry on a war footing. Despite claims of increased production, we estimate that maintaining the current force levels remains challenging, particularly for advanced models like the T-90 series. Critical vulnerabilities exposed. In examining the catastrophic losses of Russian tanks in Ukraine, we've identified several critical vulnerabilities that have contributed to their battlefield failures. Our analysis reveals fundamental issues spanning design, tactics, and maintenance that have severely compromised Russian armored capabilities. When examining the serious losses of Russian tanks in Ukraine, it is possible to identify several key flaws that contributed to the battlefield defeat. The analysis shows that fundamental design, tactical, and maintenance issues have severely degraded the capabilities of Russian armored forces. The most critical vulnerability in Russian tank design lies in the arrangement of their ammunition storage, a flaw that has proven to be devastating in combat situations. This issue, most notably observed in the T-72 models, is rooted in the design choice to store shells in a carousel loader located directly beneath the turret. This placement maximizes the tank's rate of fire and maintains a compact silhouette but comes at the cost of crew safety. When the tank is struck in combat, this configuration can initiate a catastrophic chain reaction, commonly referred to as the jack-in-the-box effect, resulting in an explosive force that ejects the turret entirely and leaves little chance for crew survival. This flaw leads to nearly a 100% fatality rate for tank operators in such incidents. Unlike Western tank designs, which prioritize crew protection by storing ammunition under the turret floor in reinforced compartments, Russian tanks prioritize firepower and agility over survivability. This trade-off reflects a broader design philosophy but has had dire consequences in the field. Additional vulnerabilities in Russian tanks exacerbate their shortcomings. Automated loading systems that necessitate hazardous ammunition placement increase the risk of internal explosions. Inferior armor that is thinner and less technologically advanced compared to Western counterparts, leaving the tank more susceptible to modern anti-tank weaponry. Limited crew survivability measures such as the absence of blast-proof compartments or advanced escape systems. Outdated fire control systems hinder their ability to accurately engage targets in high-stakes combat scenarios. Together, these design flaws have rendered Russian tanks significantly more vulnerable on modern battlefields, with devastating consequences for their operational effectiveness and crew safety. Besides, Russian forces repeatedly made critical errors in tank deployment. In northern operations, they conducted deep penetration attacks up to 120 kilometers into Ukrainian territory without securing supply lines. Russian commanders failed to adapt their tactics to modern battlefield conditions, often deploying tanks in large, concentrated formations that became easy targets for Ukrainian anti-tank weapons. It has been observed that many elite units were significantly depleted early in the conflict, resulting in the deployment of less experienced crews. In one documented instance, even a medic was reassigned to operate a tank. Severe maintenance and logistics problems plaguing Russian tank operations. The Russian military's logistics system proved inadequate for sustained combat operations, with each soldier requiring approximately 440 pounds of daily supplies including fuel, ammunition, and support materials. Corruption has significantly impacted maintenance capabilities, with some captured tanks revealing hollowed-out reactive armor missing crucial components. The maintenance crisis is exacerbated by international sanctions limiting access to critical components and spare parts. Russian forces have struggled to maintain even basic sustainment operations, leading to numerous battlefield failures. The situation has forced Russian commanders to make difficult choices between concentrating supplies near the front line, risking Ukrainian artillery strikes, or placing them further back, compromising rapid resupply capabilities. This logistical dilemma has contributed significantly to their ongoing tank losses in Ukraine. Impact on Russian combat power. There has been a significant shift in Russia's combat power as tank and equipment losses continue to reshape its military capabilities. Many analysts suggest that while Russia began 2023 with around 360,000 troops in Ukraine, that number has risen to 470,000 by early 2024. However, this increase in numbers masks deeper challenges related to the structure and ability to sustain Russian military combat power. Russian offensive capabilities have been severely impacted by equipment losses. While Russia maintains the ability to conduct consistent offensive operations, we've noted they've had to adapt their tactics significantly. Russian forces now operate primarily in company-sized groups and dispersed detachments, reflecting both battlefield adaptation and a critical shortage of trained officers. Russian offensive capabilities have been severely impacted by equipment losses. While Russia maintains the ability to conduct consistent offensive operations, we've noted they've had to adapt their tactics significantly. Russian forces now operate primarily in company-sized groups and dispersed detachments, reflecting both battlefield adaptation and a critical shortage of trained officers. Major impacts on their combat operations included the need for units to rotate after suffering 30% casualties, a reduced ability to conduct large-scale offensive operations, an increased reliance on artillery tactics, and a limited ability to exploit tactical advantages. Russian unit combat effectiveness has been particularly affected by personnel and equipment constraints. The Russian military faces a concerning shortage of trained officers, with some receiving as little as 2 months of condensed training. This has led to a significant degradation in command capabilities and operational flexibility. Russia's current force structure has faced many challenges. First is the size of the battalion. Soldiers in each battalion have been reduced to 230 to 230 soldiers. Next is the combat capability of the infantry. Out of 300 soldiers, only 100 are capable of conducting offensive operations. In addition, Russia also has a serious shortage of officer corps, which greatly affects the coordination of units. Some investigations into Russian strategic reserves reveal concerning trends. While Russia has managed to reactivate approximately 1,180 to 1,280 main battle tanks and 2,470 infantry fighting vehicles from storage in 2023, these numbers barely keep pace with battlefield losses. We estimate that Russia's current production capacity of about 130 tanks per month is insufficient to maintain force levels long-term. The situation is further complicated by Western sanctions affecting Russia's military-industrial complex. Our analysis suggests that beyond 2026, equipment attrition will begin to materially degrade Russian combat power, while their industrial base faces increasing disruption from international restrictions. Despite these challenges, Russian forces maintain the ability to conduct limited offensive operations, though at a reduced scale and effectiveness compared to their pre-war capabilities. The Russian military has demonstrated resilience through adaptation, but the cumulative effect of equipment losses and personnel constraints continues to erode their overall combat effectiveness. Ukrainian anti-tank capabilities. Ukrainian anti-tank capabilities reveal a sophisticated integration of Western weapons, innovative drone warfare, and coordinated artillery that has proven devastatingly effective against Russian armor. Ukrainian forces have masterfully combined these elements to create a multi-layered defense system. Western-supplied anti-tank guided missiles, ATGMs, have become cornerstone weapons in Ukraine's defense strategy. The American-made Javelin, costing $178,000 per system, and the British-Swedish Nola have demonstrated remarkable effectiveness. Our analysis shows that the Ukrainian-made Stugna P system, at just $20,000 per set, offers a cost-effective alternative that has proven equally lethal. Western-supplied anti-tank guided missiles, ATGMs, have emerged as a cornerstone of Ukraine's defense strategy, with systems like the American-made Javelin, priced at $178,000 per unit, and the British-Swedish Law demonstrating exceptional battlefield effectiveness. However, our analysis reveals that the Ukrainian-made Stugna P system, costing only $20,000 per unit, provides a highly cost-effective alternative with comparable lethality. The Stugna P boasts advanced capabilities, including tandem heat charges designed to penetrate reactive armor, state-of-the-art guidance systems with fire-and-forget technology, remote operation features that enhance crew safety, and an effective engagement range of up to 2.5 kilometers, solidifying its role as a critical asset in countering Russian armored forces. We have documented a groundbreaking shift in drone warfare tactics. As Ukrainian forces increasingly utilize drones costing as little as $500 to destroy tanks valued at millions of dollars. Our research indicates that nearly every Ukrainian fighting brigade now incorporates dedicated assault drone companies, specialized reconnaissance units, thief drone operators, and precision bombing teams. The Ukrainian government's ambitious plan to manufacture 1 million thief drones in 2024 underscores their commitment to this innovative strategy, with the production target surpassing the total artillery shell supply of the entire European Union in the previous year. Ukrainian forces have developed sophisticated artillery coordination systems that integrate drone reconnaissance with precision strikes. Their approach combines unmanned reconnaissance aircraft, digital maps, and artillery units to acquire targets in real time, process target coordinates, and execute precision strikes. Our analysis shows that Ukrainian forces have mastered the shoot and scoot tactics, typically relocating within 20 minutes after engaging targets. We've observed their effective use of Western-supplied counter-battery radars, including the Antip-Q36 and Antip-Q49 systems, which have significantly enhanced their targeting capabilities. The effectiveness of this integrated approach is evident in the successful deployment of precision munitions, like the 155mm Excalibur shells, which Ukrainian forces often fire from Polish Crab howitzers. We've noted that this combination of capabilities has forced Russian tanks to operate several kilometers further from the front lines, significantly reducing their tactical effectiveness. Russian adaptation attempts. Facing unprecedented tank losses in Ukraine, we've observed Russia implementing significant adaptations to maintain its combat capabilities. Our analysis reveals a multifaceted approach to address the mounting challenges in equipment, tactics, and production. We've documented that Russia's military industry is struggling to meet battlefield demands. Current production capacity stands at approximately 130 tanks per month, a rate insufficient to offset combat losses. The situation is particularly concerning as we've found that Russia's defense budget now consumes more than 30% of the federal budget. Every month, the Russian arms industry must produce 130 new tanks, 38 howitzers, and 13 rocket artillery. Russia has adopted increasingly innovative approaches to vehicle deployment in response to mounting losses, with the most notable being the expanded use of unmanned ground vehicles, UGVs. These systems fulfill diverse roles, including intelligence and surveillance operations, logistical support, personnel evacuations, and direct combat engagement. Our investigation also highlights Russia's reliance on alternative vehicle sources, such as Chinese-manufactured equipment, and the deployment of modified vehicles like turretless T-62 tanks repurposed as makeshift infantry carriers. While these adaptations demonstrate resilience and resourcefulness, they underscore the significant strain on Russia's conventional armored capabilities. The integration of these new systems and tactics marks a fundamental shift in Russian military doctrine, yet our analysis suggests these measures are largely reactive, driven by necessity rather than strategic planning. Despite these adaptations, the Russian military continues to face considerable challenges in maintaining combat effectiveness amidst sustained equipment losses. Economic impact on Russia. The economic toll of sustaining Russia's tank warfare in Ukraine has triggered unprecedented shifts in their financial priorities and industrial base. We've observed that defense spending has risen to an extraordinary 7.5% of Russia's GDP, fundamentally reshaping their economy. Our analysis shows that Russia's military expenses have reached historic levels, with defense spending projected to consume 41% of the state budget. We've tracked how this massive allocation has transformed their industrial landscape, with over 520,000 new jobs created in the military-industrial complex. The financial strain is evident in the wage dynamics, where we've seen defense industry workers' salaries increase up to fivefold, contributing to inflation rates reaching 8.68% in October. Key resource allocation trends we've identified. Defense industry employment reaching 3.5 million Russians, 2.5% of population. Military factories operating mandatory 12-hour shifts with double overtime. Wage increases from 25,000 rubles to 90,000 rubles monthly in key facilities. We've documented the impact of approximately 16,000 international sanctions imposed on Russia since the invasion. Our research shows that Western sanctions have blocked over $320 billion of Russian central bank reserves, while their exports declined by 28.3% to $425.1 billion. International sanctions have significantly impacted the Russian economy. Exports to Europe fell sharply, down 68% to $83.9 billion. Credit risk insurance premiums up from $200 to $13,800. Russian military spending on the special military operation in Ukraine amounted to $211 billion. Russia's military-industrial complex is experiencing significant strain, particularly in high-tech manufacturing. Analysis indicates that the country has lost 10% of its IT workforce, resulting in a critical shortage of more than 500,000 workers in the technology sector. This workforce exodus, coupled with the departure of Western companies, has severely hindered its capacity to produce advanced military equipment. The strain is further exacerbated by the defense industry's reliance on imports, with sanctions creating critical shortages in essential areas such as microelectronic components, microchips, machine-building tools, specialized steels and metallurgic products, space-grade materials, as well as engines and turbines. Our investigation shows that while Russia maintains some production capability, its military industry faces significant challenges. We've observed that many factories now rely on student and convict labor to meet production quotas. The situation is further complicated by what we've identified as an impossible trilemma: attempting to finance the war, maintain social spending, and control inflation simultaneously. Despite these challenges, we've noted that Russia continues to adapt through various workarounds, including the development of alternative supply chains and increased reliance on domestic production. However, our analysis suggests that these measures may not be sustainable long-term, as the cumulative effect of sanctions and industrial strain continues to mount. Strategic implications. Through our extensive analysis of Russian tank losses in Ukraine, we've identified profound strategic implications that will reshape military dynamics for years to come. Our research reveals that these implications extend far beyond mere equipment losses, fundamentally altering Russia's military posture and regional power dynamics. Russian military doctrine has undergone notable shifts in direct response to battlefield experiences. By early 2025, Russia is expected to introduce a new 10-year defense plan, representing the most significant revision of its military strategy in decades. This plan reflects a transition toward a mixed readiness system aimed at maintaining an active force of 1 million troops, alongside a stronger emphasis on strategic reserves and mobilization capacity. Lessons learned from the conflict in Ukraine are being integrated into training protocols, signaling a shift in priorities toward force preservation rather than aggressive advancement. The examination of the changing power dynamics reveals complex implications for NATO and regional security. Russian forces have grown from 360,000 troops in early 2023 to 470,000 By 2024 in Ukraine, though this numerical growth masks significant qualitative challenges, that German defense officials project a possible Russian threat to NATO territory within 5 to 8 years, while Norwegian assessments suggest a shorter timeline of 2 to 3 years. However, analysis indicates these timelines heavily depend on Russia's ability to overcome current industrial and technological constraints. Through our investigation of Russia's force structure evolution, we've identified several critical trends that will shape its military capabilities through 2030. The Russian military faces what we see as an impossible balance between three competing priorities: maintaining current combat operations, regenerating lost capabilities, and modernizing for future conflicts. Russia's military reconstitution efforts face significant hurdles. They can currently reactivate approximately 1,180 to 1,280 main battle tanks and 2,470 infantry fighting vehicles annually from storage, but this barely compensates for ongoing losses. The situation is further complicated by what we've observed as chronic shortages in critical components and technical expertise. Russia's preferences for a larger force structure may conflict with demographic and financial realities. Our analysis suggests they may adopt a hybrid approach, maintaining a smaller active duty force while developing an extensive strategic reserve. This structure would allow Russia to maintain larger potential force levels without incurring unsustainable financial costs. Looking ahead, we project that beyond 2026, equipment attrition will begin to materially degrade Russian combat power. However, we've noted that individual Russian units have demonstrated remarkable resilience and adaptability in learning from battlefield mistakes. This suggests that while overall force capability may decline, specific elements of the Russian military could emerge more capable and experienced. Lessons from modern warfare. Our comprehensive study of tank warfare in Ukraine has revealed transformative lessons that challenge traditional military doctrine. We've identified critical insights that will shape the future of armored warfare and military strategy. Modern battlefield conditions have revealed significant vulnerabilities in armored warfare, with Russian forces losing 1,917 tanks between February 2022 and March 2023 from a pre-war total of 3,417 active tanks. This extraordinary rate of loss has necessitated a re-evaluation of basic assumptions about tank survivability. Identified vulnerabilities include the impact of advanced drone surveillance capabilities, the effectiveness of precision-guided anti-tank weapons, limitations in situational awareness, and inadequate reconnaissance support, all of which have contributed to the diminished effectiveness of armored units in modern conflict. We found that effective tank operations require a sophisticated combination of combat elements. Research shows that Russian tanks operating without infantry support suffered heavy losses, especially in the early stages of the war. The stark difference in the effectiveness of joint military operations is illustrated by a comparison between traditional warfare and modern requirements. In traditional warfare, infantry primarily perform basic ground defense tasks, while modern requirements require a multi-layered security system. Reconnaissance, previously limited to small relay elements, must now be integrated with an extensive network of unmanned aerial vehicles. Air defense must move from providing periodic protection to providing continuous protection, and electronic warfare, which was once considered secondary, has become an indispensable element. Future armored warfare will require critical adaptations to address the evolving dynamics of the battlefield, shaped by the proliferation of surveillance and attack drones. Analysis shows that modern threats have rendered traditional infantry support, once deemed sufficient for protecting tanks, increasingly inadequate. Successful armored operations will depend on enhanced reconnaissance capabilities, including the forward deployment of specialized reconnaissance and surveillance troops, integration of counter-drone systems, and advanced early warning networks. Tactical adjustments will also be essential, such as reducing formation sizes, increasing dispersion to minimize vulnerability, and strengthening electronic warfare protection to counter emerging threats. We've noted that battlefield transparency has become increasingly deadly, with modern sensors and drones making it nearly impossible for large formations to remain undetected. Our research indicates that survival on the transparent battlefield often undermines traditional combined arms fundamentals, creating a complex tactical challenge. In examining recent conflicts, we've found that the ubiquity of drones has rendered traditional infantry armor formations less effective than in past conflicts. This observation has led us to conclude that successful tank operations must now incorporate dedicated reconnaissance and security (RS) troops, providing early warning and counter-reconnaissance capabilities. Our analysis of combat experience in Ukraine has demonstrated that machine vision technology is dramatically changing survivability operations. We've observed that this technological shift drives the need for more sophisticated decoys and tactics specifically designed to confuse algorithmic targeting systems. We've identified that future armored warfare will require a fundamental shift in operational concepts. Our research shows that techniques enabling survival on a transparent battlefield often conflict with traditional combined arms principles. This contradiction necessitates new technological solutions to negate transparency while maintaining combat effectiveness. The future of armored warfare does not lie in abandoning tanks but in transforming how they are employed. Research indicates that successful operations will require multiple layers of protection, including advanced electronic warfare capabilities, integrated drone defenses, sophisticated camouflage systems, and enhanced mobility tactics. While tanks continue to play a critical role in modern warfare, their effectiveness increasingly hinges on the integration of advanced support systems and the adoption of adapted tactical approaches. Future success in armored operations will depend on achieving a balance between maintaining offensive capabilities and ensuring survivability in an increasingly transparent and technologically advanced battlefield environment. Conclusion: Russian tank losses in Ukraine have reshaped military thinking and exposed critical weaknesses in conventional armored warfare doctrine. Our extensive analysis reveals that these losses stem from a combination of design flaws, tactical mistakes, and logistical failures that continue to plague Russian forces. We've documented how these setbacks force significant adaptations in Russian military operations, though their effectiveness remains limited by industrial and economic constraints. The battlefield data we've gathered demonstrates that modern anti-tank capabilities, particularly drones and advanced guided weapons, have fundamentally altered combat dynamics. Russian forces lost nearly 60% of their pre-war tank fleet, creating a strategic crisis that extends beyond immediate combat effectiveness. Their attempts to offset these losses through increased production and tactical changes highlight deeper structural problems within their military-industrial complex. These developments carry profound implications for future conflicts. Our research shows that successful armored operations now require sophisticated integration of reconnaissance, electronic warfare, and combined arms tactics. Military planners must reconsider traditional assumptions about tank warfare, as battlefield transparency and advanced anti-tank weapons have made conventional armored tactics increasingly obsolete. The lessons learned from Russian tank losses will influence military doctrine and force structure decisions for decades. We've concluded that while tanks remain vital for modern warfare, their deployment and protection require radical rethinking to ensure survival on increasingly lethal battlefields. What do you think about the losses that Russia suffered when implementing its special military strategy in Ukraine? And how do you evaluate Ukraine's strategy against Putin's giant army? Please share your opinion with us in the comment section. Thanks for watching.